this Sunday. So if you want to be nosy, you can join the Patreon family. But not going into too much. I mentally was not doing okay. I was not. My mother has been watching me little by little by little crack and struggle mentally, little by little by little. And eventually I broke. I had a meltdown. I needed to get out of New York. And my mother knew it as well. If I did not, I promise you guys, none of y'all would have seen me in a few months. Oh, I just would have went complete. I just would have disappeared and fell off. It was time. I broke. I hold a lot of things inside. You know, I smile, I laugh, but a lot of people don't understand that a lot of times when influencers or YouTubers or anyone in general, when the camera cuts off, nobody has a clue what we go through in our personal life, right? I needed a reset. I needed, and the only place I knew I can get that was in Atlanta with Bestie, aka Sissy Boo. Now, that being said, the breakdown and this idea came around, I do believe it was Saturday or maybe Sunday morning. I'm not 100% sure because, again, I haven't been sleeping, eating, all of it, right? But it was clear that nobody wanted me to stay in New York any longer than I needed. So, as a whole, I personally booked a flight myself, leaving on a Tuesday. Now, I know many people know that I am from New York, but what many people fail to realize is that I do not live in New York City. I know you guys, when you hear New York and on TV, basketball games, you see Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, Broadway shows, the Statue of Liberty. But yeah, I don't live anywhere near that. As a matter of fact, I am about an hour and a half to 2 hours away from the city. I live further north from New York City. Keep that in mind. Now, I had to book my flight before a certain time on Tuesday because Bestie had to come get me from the airport. But Bestie also had to go to work. She had evening stuff to do. I am not trying to interfere with anyone's money, job, or responsibilities. And I damn sure, I am not trying to be a burden to anyone. I'll say it now and I'll say it again. The only burden I should be to anyone is my parents. That is it. So I was trying to get there by a certain time now. And so I had to be there by a certain time, which is why I booked an early flight out. My flight was scheduled to leave at 7:50 in the morning on Tuesday morning. Now, that being said, the fact that my flight left at 7:50 sleeping is sometimes my enemy. It really, really is. I haven't been eating. As a matter of fact, I really haven't been part of society, if I'm being honest. And my OCD habits was at its ultimate worst. Like, I have never, first of all these emotions that I was feeling was new, and that's why it was scaring me, because I didn't like it. I did not like the feeling. I was losing control. It's the feelings were actually consuming me to the point that I didn't know what to do. I could barely breathe. It was too much. I can't really explain it, but I was losing complete control and did not like it. So the night before I left, my OCD in my apartment was at its all-time highest. I would clean my apartment from top to bottom and then do it all over again. Like, mop the floor, vacuum again. I would make my bed, clean sheets. I would then strip it, do it again. I would redo my tub, redo my bathroom. I would bleach everything all over again. I was back to doing the knot. I kept doing it over like a robot. Because anytime I stopped, my mind would be full of nonsense. It gave me time with my thoughts, and I didn't like it. I didn't want it. So I just kept going. By 9 p.m. My mother came over and she had enough, and she started hiding my cleaning products and actually took my vacuum away from me. And at 9 o'clock is when I thought about packing. I packed, everything was now. Like, what in the actual fuck? Like, I called my mother like a complete meltdown. But again, my mother was not letting me go out like that. So she told me to book another flight, but book it to the airport that is closer to me. Now, all city airports are cheaper than the airport, which would be considered White Plains or Westchester Airport, is cheaper. For instance, a flight to Atlanta from LaGuardia will be like $260, but a flight leaving out of Westchester White Plains, it's $599. I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around it myself, but that's what it is. So, I think it was clear that your girl should not. I did not belong behind a wheel. So, and if I did, nobody wanted me to go as far as I needed to go. So I decided. So mother was like, catch a flight out of Westchester Airport. Okay, problem is the flights leaving at an airport out of Westchester, like I just told you, was $599. Oh, I lost it again. I'm like $600 for a one way, because remember, I have the returning flight. So I thought. And so my mother sold me the $599 before you could even spell the word. So, you hear me? I booked my flight. Now the problem is, how am I getting there? Because remember, I just lost my plane ticket and then I lost $250. As a matter of fact, that round ticket to Atlanta was like, I think it was like $470 or something, right? And so $470, and then I lost the $250 for the parking voucher in LaGuardia, which it's making me sick even thinking about it right now. Like, my mother even tried calling on my behalf, being a little bit more calmer than I was, because I was not being calm about nothing. Like, you guys are so eager and so quick to keep someone's money. In fact, I'm like, well, why can't I use their parking voucher for a later time that day? They were just trying to be really, really difficult. And so now, like I said, I booked my flight, and now it's like, how am I getting there, right? Because again, no one thought it was a good idea for me to be behind a wheel. So I called Uber. Do you know, from my apartment to the airport, now the new airport, was $230. I do believe. Yep, it was $230. Again, who has that money? I just lost my parking. But here comes my mother swooping in like it. All because I overslept. And so my mother did a rescue again. Like I said, my mother was getting me on a flight that day. She didn't care how much it cost, what time I had to go. She was getting me to Atlanta one way or another. So what I did find interesting though is the Uber driver, as I'm telling him about my morning, he informs me that out of that $230, he only sees $70 of it. $70 out of realized that she also could not get into my itinerary. So she was like, you know what, let's just go to the Delta app. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I'm putting in my info, and guess what? Delta cannot find me. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So then I'm like, let me go back into my email. Do you know that Delta or whoever thought it was a good idea to let me know the day before my returning flight that they actually canceled my flight? They canceled my flight. Say what? It is now like 9 o'clock at night, and now we're both realizing that I do not have a return flight home. Say what? So now, as usual, I'm back in a panic. This time though, I'm not crying because Bestie's like, she's trying to tell me to calm down, breathe, we'll figure it out, don't panic. But deep down, I'm already panicking because I know that Bestie has something to do herself the following day, because she herself was also driving home to go visit her mother. So it's like it was like, I'm not trying to mess up Bestie's plans. Like, no, I need a flight home. Once again, I tried to call Delta, and Delta had a long wait. And as I'm on the Delta site, I'm realizing that my flight, the flights I had to choose from was very, very, very limited. I don't know if it was because it was like after Memorial Day or whatever, but like places like LaGuardia wanted almost $1,000 to come into LaGuardia. Westchester / White Plains, they wanted $700, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And so I then had to fly into New Jersey, Newark. I had to fly into Newark. That was the only flight that I was able to afford. And I think with tax and everything, that ticket ran me $314. And so before I did that though, I was like, okay, here I go again. Back, I'm trying to call Delta, long wait. I tried to call Expedia to at least figure out why this happened. And unfortunately, although Expedia couldn't help me, they did explain that a lot of times with the airlines, if you miss your departure flight, that Delta will actually cancel your return. So in Delta's eyes, they're like, okay, if you missed your departure, then that means you basically canceled your entire trip, which is insane, because people miss their flights. They might fly out a different day. What does me missing my departure have to do with my returning? It should have nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. If I decide that I don't want to fly that day and fly in a different plane or whatever, why are you touching my returning? That has nothing to do with you. I can understand you giving away my ticket or blah 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 that day, but why are you messing with my returning 8 days later? And the funny thing is, my mother kept saying to me, you should make sure you have a returning flight. And I kept saying, well, why? I swear to God, I kept saying, why would anyone or Delta say, you know what, let's cancel our return? Why? I never knew. But that's exactly what happened. So now I'm like reading Expedia's their information, and then I'm googling, and then I realize that they're right. I googled like Delta's policy, and I'm like, I never knew this shit. And so I had to go onto the Uber app. I almost passed out. You know, they wanted $310. $310 for an Uber from Newark Airport to take me home. Oh. So I called my mother and she's like stuck on stupid. She's just like, are you serious? I'm like, yes. It is now $310. And truth be told, although they are in opposite directions, they're only a 2-mile distance difference, if that makes sense. But they wanted $310. I told my mother I do not have all that. I do not, because we're gonna run it down real quick. So and I said and I need a plan B just in case, he doesn't respond to me. So my mother did send me half the money for the Uber, which I'm grateful. The next morning I'm up and out. We get to the airport fine. But I get to the airport super early. My flight was leaving at 10:50. I think we made it to the airport a little before 7, just to beat the Atlanta traffic, and she can go on and do what she had to do for the day. So after I checked in or whatever, I'm sitting there and I still heard nothing from this Uber guy. But then around, I think 8:30ish or whatever, I think it was, he did respond to me, and I was like, oh my god, thank God. And so he was able to pick me up. He was able to pick me up from the right airport. Everything, the Uber conversation and the pickup went smoothly as hell. Again, he charged me $90. I think I gave him like $125 because what a shit show. What a shit show. Or 130 or something. Shit show. Yeah. Hot mess. So I was able to give back the $150 to my mother for the Uber. Because of all that too, I now have, because he actually lives out here somewhere. But now I told him that, like, especially for August, when I'm going to Universal with the kids, that we're gonna need a ride. So now I'm happy that we do have a Uber driver, like, on call if needed. So $700 out of my money, I completely lost. Like, mother didn't interfere with that. I lost $750. Then my mother had to go ahead and fish out, well, to say even $600 for that white plane ticket, and then she had to sell me $230 for the Zelle. I'm sorry, for the Uber. And so that was 600 to 30, so that's $830 that my mother had to sell me that morning. $830, and then I lost $700. So you know what? Let me just stop with the math, because it's actually pissing me off the more I think about it. So what did I learn from this whole situation? Well, I learned that if I need to book a flight, just for like a direct, just going somewhere with no hotel or cars or anything, then I'm better off just going to the actual Delta. I like flying with Delta. Delta and JetBlue are the two airlines that I will always, mess with, and I always have to have a window seat. That is a must, a window seat. Now that we're talking about there's something else that I would like to discuss. So yeah, moving forward though, if just a flight, go to the actual Delta app. Okay, so this flight coming back home though, I don't know the difference, and maybe y'all can tell me if, like, moving forward I can figure this out. But the flight home, again, which is why I always have to choose my seat. I have to have a window seat, and I don't give a damn what part of the plane I sit in, as long, or which side, as long as it is a window seat. Look, on the way home, I was on a Delta flight that had 3 rows. Look, now I am not making fun of this person's weight, but so I was by the window. Then it was a girl in the middle and a nice elderly gentleman that was on the aisle, by the aisle seat. And so I came in first because he was sitting there, the old man, and he got up very, very nice, and he was even laughing, talking about he better stop eating all his wife's cooking and stop drinking beer as a retired man, because he was a little, beer belly. But we both laughed. But the point was, it was a very tight squeeze, right? So he's on the aisle, and then I'm by the window. Okay. Then this girl approaches, and I'm just like, oh, hell no. I know it was, if I had to guess, she was about, I would say, like 350, if I had to guess, right? Now, I'm a big girl, but I have been like 300 pounds, right? So I completely get the struggle. However, I knew that she was going to be so uncomfortable, because the next thing I noticed is that when I was sitting, I never put like the arm rest down. And so now that she's coming to sit, she too had a problem putting down the hand rest. So now I'm like completely turning my whole body, and I'm trying to get as close to the window as possible, because it was clear that she was not going to be able to put the hand rest down, and I know baby girl needed some room. So I'm trying my hardest to give her as much has OCD, but like, okay, here's the thing. I'm a female, right? So, you know, how do I say this? We can smell ourselves. Let's just cut the shit. We can smell ourselves, right? So I cannot figure out how you are comfortable enough to get up, get dressed, make it to the airport smelling. It just, and then she had like braids basically like dragging on the ground, and our hair smelled like it has not been washed in years. It just was, I felt so, I had to text Bestie on inside the plane before we took off, because I said to her, never again, never again in the history of never will I ever book a flight with 3 rows. I need to know if there's any way I can know if this is a three-seater type of thing. But then I thought to myself, I actually could upgrade my seat to, I guess, like the 2-seaters, because I think it's like first class,